like to start with a quick introduction and an overview. So the pitch contest is presented by the Lubin School of Business, Entrepreneurship at Lubin in association with the MIT Enterprise Forum. And I'd like to thank three sponsors. The Y Enterprise is a new business incubator being set up in Yonkers, which will launch next month, and one of the prizes will be free incubator space for a winner. Also Curious, which is the name badge company with the QR codes that you have. You could exchange information just by using a like Red Laser or an application reader on a smartphone, as well as Presdo. Presdo Match is a really interesting and innovative networking system that Eric Lee is testing. He let us use it. Eric was the co-founder of LinkedIn. So it's a neat way to be able to network. Selection committee, they're all professors at Pace and one member from the MIT Enterprise Forum, Professor Bhandari, Bloom, Hill, Paul Kernit, Yanis, who's from the Enterprise Forum, Harvey Markowitz, Rebecca Takula, the executive director of the Wilson Center for Entrepreneurship. We got over 90 applications this year and whittled them down to 6 finalists. So I'd like to thank the selection committee for reviewing all that material. I'd also like to thank the alumni mentors. These are people that have won the pitch contest over the last 6 years, previous 6 years, and have agreed to serve as mentors to those that are competing this year. And I think it's great. All of them have gone on to form successful ventures. I'd also like to thank the judges. Kevin Bolen, a partner at Innosight, a consulting firm in Massachusetts started by Harvard professor Clay Christensen. Somak, who is also on the board of the MIT Enterprise Forum with me and a principal at GSA Venture Partners. Jalak, who's the director of Omidyar Networks. For those that don't know, it's Pierre Omidyar, the founder of eBay. Stan Litow, who's the president of the IBM International Foundation and who will also be our keynote speaker. David Rose, the chairman of New York Angels, one of the largest angel networks in the country. And Laurie Smith, who also serves on the MIT Enterprise Forum board and is a partner at Sedgwick, a leading international law firm in New York City. So very quickly, the basic rules. Each individual or team, some are teams of 3, some are individuals, will have up to 3 minutes and may use up to 5 PowerPoint slides. The pitch are all original concepts and they were created by the presenter. And the contest is open to current students, undergraduate or graduate, full-time, part-time, PACE or otherwhere, as well as recent alumni, which we defined as people that have graduated within the past 18 months. There's 2 categories. One is the new business concepts, which is judged primarily on commercial viability, and the second is social ventures, judged on social benefit. There sometimes is a bit of a debate between social and business, so the way the judging criteria we're going to use to define the 2 is what is the primary mission. Is it social or commercial? Or the primary measure of success, how the company measures their success, either social or commercial. So the contestants, as I said, we got down to 6 contestants, 3 in each category. On the new business concept category is Fit Hopper, the Lean Canteen, and Resolutions. And they happen to all be PACE students this year in the new business concept category. In the past, as you've seen, if you saw the opening video clip, we've been honored to welcome students from many, many universities around the country, including Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Stanford, MIT, Columbia, NYU, and many others. On the social venture side is Guiding Proud, Little Big Loan, and Malo Traders. And the prizes, each finalist team for coming in gets $500. That's to help defray the cost of those coming in from out of town. And the winning new business concept pitch will receive $3,000, as with the winning social venture pitch. So the quick overview of the agenda from now to 6:15, we'll do the welcome and the speakers. Then the 6 finalists will make their pitch, and after the 3-minute pitch, the judging panel will ask each a couple questions. We'll take a short break where there'll be some more refreshments in the lobby, and the judging panel will meet upstairs in the green room and pick 2 winners. And we'll have a brief closing remarks and awards ceremony, and some time at the end for networking. I thought I'd very quickly say just a quick introduction to PACE. PACE was founded in 1906 by 2 entrepreneurial brothers. They came from Ohio, noticed a need for business education, borrowed $600 to rent a classroom in what's now this building. When they couldn't find textbooks on law and accounting, they wrote their own. And the first class was 10 men and 3 women, and that was a decade and a half before women even had the right to vote. Our entrepreneurship program, as the Dean mentioned, recently celebrated its 30th anniversary. It was founded back in 1979. Might not seem that long ago, but at the time, there was only about 24 schools in the world that even had a single course in entrepreneurship. And I scan the book because when I say this at entrepreneurship conferences, people don't believe me. And I'd like to also thank 3 special speakers. So Sal Khan, who you'll hear about shortly, and Sal is Skyping in, which is very fitting for someone who does remote education. Stan Litow, who again is the president of the IBM International Foundation, and happened to have been the deputy chancellor of New York City Schools, and Harold Levy, who is going to give the closing remarks and present the awards, who happened to be the former chancellor of New York City Schools. That's a position where you oversee 1.2 million students. And what is it, more real estate than the post office, more buses than the MTA. It's a huge organization. And Harold is also a member of the Board of Trustees of Pace University and is working as a venture capitalist for Palm Ventures. So with that, I'm going to show a short video clip, if the technology gods are with me, and then we're going to Skype in with Sal. So Sal spoke at the TED conference, and he was Bill Gates, who is known as Bill Gates' favorite teacher, asked him to give a talk, and it was one of the 2 or 3 that were most talked about on the internet. So let me play that video clip.
Khan Academy is most known for its collection of videos. So before I go any farther, let me show you a little bit of a montage.
So the hypotenuse is now going to be 5. This animal's fossils are only found in this area of South America, a nice clean band here, and this part of Africa. We could integrate over the surface, and the notation usually is a capital sigma. National Assembly, they create the Committee of Public Safety, which sounds like a very nice committee. Notice this is an aldehyde, and it's an alcohol. Start differentiating into effector and memory cells. A galaxy. Hey, there's another galaxy. Oh, look, there's another galaxy. And for dollars is their 30 million plus the $20 million from the American manufacturer. If this does not blow your mind, then you have no emotion.
We now have on the order of 2,200 videos covering everything from basic arithmetic all the way to vector calculus and some of the stuff that you saw up there. We have a million students a month using the site, watching on the order of 100 to 200,000 videos a day. But what we're going to talk about in this is how we're going to the next level. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about really just how I got started. And some of y'all might know, about 5 years ago, I was an analyst at a hedge fund, and I was in Boston, and I was tutoring my cousins in New Orleans remotely. And I started putting the first YouTube videos up really just as kind of a nice to have, just kind of a supplement for my cousins, something that might, give them a refresher or something. And as soon as I put those first YouTube videos up, something interesting happened. Actually, a bunch of interesting things happened. The first was the feedback from my cousins. They told me that they preferred me on YouTube than in person. Thank you.
I'll ask you about 3 or 4 questions, so we got plenty of time.
Okay.
Sal and I first met as freshmen at MIT in the early 90s. We became roommates and very close friends quite quickly, and we continue to remain very close friends to this day, even though we live on separate coasts. He was the best man at my wedding and continues to be an inspiration to all of us who knew Sal when he was, Sal, the Renaissance man, math genius, technologist, come hedge fund trader, who had this interesting side project to educate the world. And it's been unbelievable to see how this budding passion has translated into one of the most formidable new innovations in the whole area of online education. So he's a true social entrepreneur that has already transformed an industry that is very much ripe for disruption in this whole area of education. If there's a consistent theme that cuts across the broader arc of Sal's career, it would probably be his incredible passion for education and his ability to inspire people at all ages and all levels, from children from underprivileged backgrounds across the world who view him as a savior for reigniting their interest for knowledge, to his peers like me who've always watched how he's channeled his creativity for the greater good for society, and of course more recently the likes of Bill Gates, Vinod Khosla, and Google, who've played a key role funding some of the recent endeavors at the Khan Academy. Just some other interesting facts about Sal. He was a former heavy metal guitarist in high school, a president of our senior class at MIT, where he was awarded his 3 degrees that he completed in 4 years, personally by Bill Clinton. He's also a gifted writer who's authored various comedic sketches which we performed in numerous events that remain among my fondest memories from college. He was also named one of Computer World's top visionaries in Silicon Valley in his early 20s, and although I could continue listing off 100 other accolades, what I respect most about Sal is his incredible generosity for his family, his friends, his incredible sense of humor. And although he has a really great work ethic, he at the same time never takes himself or life too seriously. And that's something that's really been an inspiration for many of us who've known him. So now I'll turn it over to Mr. Khan himself.
Thank you, Somak, for the very generous introduction. So when Somak and Bruce reached out for me to speak to y'all for a little bit, I thought, hey, y'all are entrepreneurs, so let me tell y'all something about entrepreneurship. And it's a little bit strange because on some level, Khan Academy is a bit of a startup, and we don't make money, so we're not really a business. We're not for profit. But I thought I would kind of share with y'all stuff that maybe you don't typically hear in an entrepreneurial setting, because entrepreneurship and business starting, it's always associated with taking risk. And kind of from my hedge fund days, the single best piece of advice I ever got was just be focused on not losing money or risk mitigation. And so I kind of thought about the Khan Academy experience because to a large degree it was all a big exercise in risk mitigation. And when I say that, it's how do you just make sure that you're not wasting your time, you're not wasting your money, you're not wasting other people's money. And the first thing, and it comes straight out of the Khan Academy story, is this idea of just build something pretty fast, prototype it, but actually have the prototype be what people use and put it out in front of people. And I say that because before the Khan Academy, I had tried doing kind of your traditional startup many times, and every time I did it, I'd have kind of an idea, and I would go out there and I'd be very possessive of my idea. I would make people sign NDAs, and I didn't want to show them, and I wanted to go hire patent attorneys immediately. And in hindsight, that was the exact wrong focus at that stage of an organization. I should have literally just built it and gotten as many people as possible to use it and give me a genuine feedback about it. And that kind of goes into what I think is kind of like the second thing that you should really think about when you're starting something, to make sure that it's worth your time, your kind of your career investment. And that's to make sure it's really useful for people. And when I say it's really useful for people, it's not, get a bunch of people in a focus group and asking them, hey, would you pay $9.95 a month for this type of service? And 60% of them say, oh yeah, I think I would pay $9.95 a month. Is to have people try your thing out and just have a kind of unsolicited kind of reaction to it. And I'll read out some of the initial notes I started getting from Khan Academy. Because remember, I didn't even want to start this initially. I was happy with my other career. And it's things like this that convinced me that maybe I should redirect my focus in life. So actually, Somak and I can both relate to this from our days in college. But once again, it spoke to a very clear need. This was I cut out some of the things that aren't appropriate for a general audience here. But this was an email that I got from a student early on about why he finds these videos useful. He says, there's always so much else that a student has on their mind. What is a pretty girl looking like today? What was the professor like when they were a student? Should I talk to the pretty girl after class? That the slightest drifting of focus quickly turns into a fruitless 2 hours spent daydreaming or unconscious. Please continue what you are doing. Here's another one. And these, they start to, that's kind of acute. The kid, obviously has trouble focusing in class, and now he can watch the YouTube videos. But then a few comments start to speak to how something simple like what I was working on can actually change people's lives. And I would have never thought that it was actually the case, but we started getting letters like this. This is from a parent. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are, but in my mind, you're a savior. My children really struggle with math. There's an inherited learning disability with my family. They get it, but only after seeing it done multiple times. Your videos allow us to get our children caught up with their peers. As a parent, I have to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so there's this theme that started forming and kind of convinced me to start the Khan Academy that, regardless of what they would say in a focus group for 1995 or whatever, there's just this huge groundswell of need that's just reaching out, or they're kind of hungry for this type of thing. And then, I'll read one that I got recently, and I don't want to make this about, it is a little bit self-horn-tooty to read these thank you letters and all that, but I really want to put yourself in my mind and in my shoes as an entrepreneur of like, wow, because these are the things that convinced me to do the Khan Academy. So here's one that came recently. I'm a sophomore at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, and I want you to know that your site has changed my college career. I've taken calculus 3 times. The first time I didn't pass the class. The second time I had to drop the class. And this time I worried I wouldn't pass. But when my girlfriend's mom told me about the site, she heard about it at a conference, I checked it out. I began supplementing, proceeding, and sometimes even replacing my lectures with your videos, and I received an 84% on my first midterm. I almost cried, I was so happy. And so I was thinking, 84%, that's an all right score, but why is he crying? It's not tear evoking. But then I read the next sentence. Especially because the class average was a 47. Now I feel confident enough to say that I will most likely get an A in the class, which I simply didn't think was possible 2 months ago. And I'll read one more. My eldest kid is dancing, this is a different one. My eldest kid is dancing around in my room here because she's so excited that she found someone that teaches like this. And so, what I tell entrepreneurs now is if your product or your service or whatever changes people's life enough that they feel a visceral need to dance, then you've done your job. And so I'll leave you with kind of one other thought that I had, and this is I keep reminding myself about this because we're kind of on this growth curve with the Khan Academy. We're hiring a bunch of people, a lot of funding is coming in, and that's and this is just something I've observed in for-profit and in social venture world, is that there are a lot of good ideas, and sometimes the good ideas don't always gel with the right timing. And the way to really maximize your odds of success is to make your organization fundamentally unkillable. To make your organization, you could ramp up, but as long as, even if your sector goes it becomes unpopular, even if the financing dries up, even if there's kind of a major depression or recession, if you're an unkillable organization and you're fitting a need, and when I say unkillable, it means, at minimum, like Khan Academy, I hope to think is unkillable. The videos are out there. Even if I were to get hit by a bus, I'm killable, but hopefully the organization isn't. The videos could keep teaching. All it needs, it'll exist even on YouTube, even if the organization didn't have any money to support a web server. And so as long as it exists, to eventually hit some type of a hockey stick when the market finally recognizes it, I think you'll do okay. So with that, I'd love to take any questions y'all might have.
So if you had one piece of advice for the people who have developed their entrepreneurial ideas and getting ready to present them in this competition, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to them?
Well, I'm not one of the judges there, but if I were one of the judges, what I would be really eager to see is, some ideas can stand on their own merit because they're just so unbelievably great ideas. But most ideas, I'm guessing all of the ideas we're going to hear today are great ideas. And so the things I would be looking for is implementation and a sign of real fitting a market need. So if there is evidence of that, I definitely emphasize it. I'd emphasize, one, that it actually exists, that it isn't just an idea, and two, that even if you can pinpoint one person that's life was fundamentally altered by this product or this idea, I think that'd be pretty compelling.
So, my name is Harold Levy, and I used to be the school chancellor in New York, so I want to tell you how delighted I am to meet you and honored. Because I think what you've done has probably had more impact than any single individual on education, certainly in my lifetime, and that it's been huge. My question for this group, where we're a group of entrepreneurs and people who like to think of themselves as interested in education, is you seem to have set the bar very high by saying, you know, you're going to get visceral dancing going on. I'm not sure that most of us are going to come up with ideas where people are going to be dancing. Two-part. One, what's a realistic bar as to when you ought to plunk down some assets, some time, and commit? And two, Khan Academy is not, right now, profit-making. It's a social entrepreneurship venture. Are you going to convert it? Or are you on the track you're on?
Yeah, so the first thing, no, and I put that bar really high because to some degree that was my bar, because I wasn't, when I started this, I wasn't looking to start a business. I was happy with my career, and so for me it was really, what do I need to see to feel that this was going to, this was going to work no matter what. It was worth kind of investing my career into it. The bar doesn't have to be that high. It really is just a matter of one's risk tolerance. But I think if someone sets their bar pretty high, pretty close to that, it'll ensure that they're at least working on something that won't be worthless, that'll have some value to the world. The second part is, no, Khan Academy will never be a for-profit organization. And actually, it's an interesting point, because early on there was a temptation to do it. We had been approached to make it a for-profit organization, or even sometimes called a double bottom line organization, where you're a for-profit and you also have a social mission. And it became clear, at least to me, pretty early, is that there's no such thing as a double bottom line organization. That you literally have a bottom line. That's why it's called a bottom line, not tied for the bottom line organization. And there's nothing wrong with a for-profit business. I mean, I came from the most for-profit of businesses imaginable to mankind, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's very important to be true to what you are. Is your mission to maximize kind of quantitative economic return, or is it to maximize social return? And I think, I have a personal problem with the organizations that when they talk to foundations, they sound like a social venture. When they talk to their investors, they sound like a for-profit venture, or even worse, they use their social mission as marketing. Hey, if you buy my $100 crappy product, I'm going to give $5 to, or I'm going to give another version of my crappy product to 4 kids in some country. And what I don't tell you is I'm going to keep $95 to buy my mansion in Beverly Hills or whatever. And so I think it's very important to know what you're trying to do, know what your end goal is. And for me, the introspection was, let me think about a home run success in the for-profit world and then a home run success in the not-for-profit world, and which one would make me happier, which one would make me more satisfied. And if I could compare having a few $1 billion to the idea that Khan Academy could turn into kind of an institution that could continue to teach billions of people for potentially a long time, the latter was a lot more fun. So our goal is to kind of be a sustainable not-profit, but we're never going to be for-profit.
Thank you. We have a question that I'll read from the Twitter feed, but I'll take my privilege to ask a question as well. And the part about the double bottom line, either social or commercial, I know one of our judges, David Rose, is smiling because that's a point he argues with me every year for the last 7 years. So thank you. My question would be, where would you like to see the Khan Academy in 5 or 10 years? And do you foresee ever having other instructors?
So the first question, I hope as just a standalone kind of web resource in 5 years, people really do view Khan Academy as one of kind of the pillar institutions of the internet. So you have like Wikipedia, you have Khan Academy. Wikipedia is the encyclopedia. Khan Academy is where you go to learn. literally anything you can and get the practice, the feedback, the data, and even on a standalone basis, even if you have no school to speak of, there's ways to prove what you know so that maybe you can get a credential and go out there into the marketplace and prove your worth. On top of that, I hope that it redefines what happens in a physical experience too, that it really becomes the de facto operating system for classrooms or even a new type of school. And what was the second part? Was that I forgot the second part.
Do you foresee having other instructors?
Oh, other instructors. Yes. So it's not kind of tactically what we're like super focused on right now, but we are translating already into 10 languages, and so there are people kind of reteaching it in other languages. We're thinking about doing kind of you know how there's TED, the TED conferences, and there's TEDx. We're thinking about doing something like that with Khan Academy, kind of a farm league, so other people can kind of develop a following. And we're already on the lookout. If we find people who look the way I looked 3 or 4 years ago, we would love to accelerate them. You know, bring them in, give them exposure. If we feel like they're really on the right track and they're in a neat domain, they're teaching. You know, I've been trying to get Somak to teach music. He's a world-class violinist. Since he gave me such a generous introduction, I can embarrass him a little bit. But yeah, we would love to include those in the library.
Thanks, Sal. And I'll ask one of the questions from the Twitter feed, and this is from Darin, DAH_RIN. Hashtag Pace Pitch. Question for Mr. Khan. How has your MBA helped you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, you know, it's strange because when I went into the business school, I was very dismissive of it. I was this quantitative engineering guy. I just kind of viewed it as something to get on my resume so that I wouldn't be pigeonholed as the quantitative engineering guy anymore. But I'll tell you, there's two interesting things. One that directly helped me, I think now do these videos on 2,200 topics is that it made me very good at sounding like I'm an expert on things that I'm not quite an expert about. Which is kind of a necessary thing if you're going to make 2,200 videos on a bunch of topics. I think the other thing is, and I'm serious about that, it actually is a very valuable skill. And I think the second thing is it actually just gave me a ton of confidence. It kind of let me know kind of what is the state of the art. How do other people think about these? And now when I go into a domain, I'm like, you know what? I've interacted. I've got, you know, I had that experience. I kind of know that I'm well armed to go into this engagement. So it's actually just changed my mindset a lot.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. I have, Somak's going to send you this. We have a little crystal thank you for you. And Sal, thank you so much. You've been an inspiration, and thank you. And thanks Somak, his MIT roommate, for helping make all this happen. Thank you so much. Good luck.
You know, I noticed on the schedule that I'm supposed to be finished at 6:15, so I'm going to do the best that I can to take 20 minutes worth of remarks and get us back on schedule. So first of all, thank you, Bruce, very much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. I was here last year. I thought it was a very interesting and creative opportunity, not just for those who presented their best ideas, and I thought there were a lot of good ideas, but I think it helped the judges to understand a little bit more about the process of developing these kind of ideas at PACE's program. And I'm from IBM. No PowerPoint tonight. No electronics, no nothing, just me. I thought a little bit about this, and first of all, I want to congratulate all the people who are going to be presenting your ideas. Did a terrific job. We're looking forward to hearing them. That's what this is about. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on introductory remarks, and we want to get very much to the people who have, you know, really contributed the most for this evening. I'm also delighted to be at an event with Harold Levy, who did a really terrific job as Chancellor of Schools. There aren't a whole lot of people who really know what's involved in being a school's chancellor and leading school system, the largest in the United States, with all kinds of difficulties. But I will say one thing, he was chancellor and I was deputy chancellor when there was a Board of Education. And that made it 10 times more difficult than it is today. That was a 7-member board appointed by 5 different elected officials. So if you need an entrepreneurial solution to something, that's a problem that really cries for entrepreneurial solutions. Let me tell you a little bit about IBM. I hope I don't need to tell you a lot, but we are an entrepreneurial company, although a very big company. And we've been in business for 100 years. And there's not a lot of businesses that can say they've been in business for 100 years, especially a company that's involved in innovation and technology. We started off making time clocks and timekeeping devices and moved on from that to things a lot more pedestrian than what we do today, things like typewriters and things like that, and have moved on to computers and software and services and a lot of things that are creative and innovative. Some people would think that a big company with 400,000 employees doing business in 170 different countries is the antithesis of entrepreneurship. But I think to stay in business for 100 years and as a big company, you really have to be committed to change. Because if you do things the same old way, you would be out of business in the current business climate. So you have to think differently. The pace of change is quick. And those are the kinds of things that are particularly important to entrepreneurs. One of the things that we do that demonstrates support for new ideas, innovation, and entrepreneurship is we allocate each year $6 billion for IBM research laboratories around the world. And that's more than any other company on the planet. And I think the commitment to research and innovation through technical research is particularly important. Over the history of the company, it's led to a couple of things that were fairly innovative, like the space shot. When President Kennedy made his speech about putting a man on the moon, he turned to NASA. They'd never built a rocket. They didn't have the engineering talent to be able to do that. And actually, several hundred IBM scientists and engineers moved into NASA, and it was a very successful effort. Earlier on, during the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, we had the first woman cabinet member, Frances Perkins. They passed Social Security. The federal government had never managed anything quite like Social Security, and the same thing as they turned to the private sector. A group of people came in from IBM and set up the information management systems for Social Security. So entrepreneurship and large companies is not necessarily something that is different from one another. And as innovators and entrepreneurs, I would suggest that potentially working with big companies, maybe not at this stage of your idea development, but very soon thereafter, might be a way to move your idea from idea into action. And large companies do have a great opportunity, and I think a great responsibility, to support entrepreneurial activity and entrepreneurship development. And a couple of things that we do is, one, working with the World Bank, we created something we call the SME Toolkit. I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to take a look at it. That's smetoolkit.org. It's a free site on the web for all small businesses, all entrepreneurs. It has 5 million users. It's in 17 different languages, customized for 30 different countries, and particularly important because, number one, it's free, and number two, it has some of the best business development and management and planning tools for a small business, because we got some of the best talent to do that. And the second thing is about how businesses buy goods and services from companies. We have a $40 billion supply chain, and one of the things that we can do to support entrepreneurial development is to do more business with small companies. And in looking at the opportunity to develop and grow jobs in the United States, the best way to do that is to give small businesses and small companies an opportunity to become suppliers to large companies. Last year, we put together an initiative we call Supplier Connection. That's another free site. And we pulled together 7 large companies whose combined supply chain spending is about $170 billion a year, and created one site on the web for small businesses to become a supplier to all those companies. If you look at the research, if a small company becomes a supplier to a large company, within 2 years they double their employee base. On average, that went from 3 employees to 6, and they increased their revenues 175%. So if we're looking to support small business, support small entrepreneurs, grow jobs, and do something about a lagging economy, we couldn't do anything more successful than to make it easier for small businesses to become suppliers to large companies, goods and or services in a variety of ways. Now, obviously, my job at IBM is about corporate citizenship. It's about making a company a socially responsible company. And that's not different than being a successful business, because if you are a socially responsible company, you have a better chance at recruiting the talent out of business schools like this one and others. There are more students at the Harvard Business School in the Social Enterprise Club than all the other clubs on campus put together. And in terms of recruitment and retention of the best talent, having a strong social responsibility program is key to recruiting and retaining top talent. And I think it's also important because it attracts investment not just from hedge funds, but from socially responsible investment funds that control about $1 trillion worth of assets, and they're available for companies that are strong social enterprises. And business would benefit from having more social entrepreneurs and more people who are entrepreneurial. Society would benefit, the public sector would benefit, and I hope that as the best talent in the business school, not just with the best entrepreneurial ideas, but all the students in the business school would think seriously about playing a role in the broader society. At IBM, we have, as I said, 400,000 employees, 175,000 do regular community service. Over the last 5 years, they did 11 million hours worth of community service, and they're incented to do that with all kinds of financial rewards for them and for the people that they work with. And I think that's what attracts top talent, and I think that that's what makes an innovative business and allows it to be competitive in society. So, you know, I hope that the entrepreneurs, they have good ideas, but I also hope that they learn some lessons from the best companies, large and small. Be innovative, be creative, be subject to change and all those kinds of things, but be true to a common core set of values about the role of business in society. So be ready to change, embrace change, evolve, but also have a commitment to the role that business and entrepreneurship has in society, and that's not just a bottom line responsibility, because the bottom line is achieved by being a socially responsible business. So thank you very much, Bruce. Delighted to be here.
I want to say something about, and perhaps I should have said in the introduction, when I first met Stan, was I had led a group of students, MBA students, to Tanzania on a social entrepreneurship course. And one of the requirements was that everyone kept a blog, and there were some people at IBM that were reading that blog. They were about to launch the IBM Corporate Service Corps, the most competitive program in IBM's 100-year history, where people from around the world apply to go in groups of 10 to a number of different countries, one of which was Tanzania. And the idea is that they go there not primarily for corporate social responsibility, but for leadership training and to train them to think innovatively and entrepreneurially, and for business opportunities. You know, what's the next China or India, in Africa? It's an amazing program. I'd encourage you to take a look at IBM's Corporate Service Corps. The second thing I'd like to very quickly mention is when Stan talked about being 100 years old, we take for granted when companies get that old, they're around. In the Netherlands, they actually add the name Royal to the company once they reach 100 years, like Royal Dutch Shell. But one of the first slides I show my MBA students, I scroll down many, many names of companies that are in the same industry. 100 years ago today, how many automobile manufacturers do you think were operating in the United States? Can you yell it out? Now we have one that hasn't gone bankrupt. 40, 100. Anyone else? 350 automobile manufacturers that produced 1,000 different brands. If you don't believe me, go to the Smithsonian Museum of American History, and there it is in the transportation area. It's amazing. So just because you're 100 years old is no guarantee. You got to constantly think entrepreneurially and innovatively. So with that, we move to the next portion of the program, the pitches.
Good evening. My name's Rob Cucci. I'm a co-founder and the director of business development at Resolutions, and tonight I'll be talking to you about the value we're excited to create for this world. So the first problem we're addressing is the fact that college housing departments use a combination of paper-based systems, and the technologies they use are very fragmented. Second, over 10% of roommates cannot coexist, and the housing departments need to take action. Lastly, schools need a better way to assess and mitigate threat when it comes to student behavior. So we've already developed a platform that digitizes and streamlines all processes when it comes to housing departments. We're currently developing a fun yet effective way for students to find that ideal roommate. And lastly, we're also developing a threat assessment tool to communicate vital and time-sensitive information to the people that need it and when they need it. So let's look at our market. You've got around 4,900 colleges here in the US alone, and these schools spend a little over $39 billion annually on IT solutions. This is expected to grow by 4.1% this year alone. So we've done several customer interviews, and our market's very excited about social and mobile solutions, and we're listening to them. So looking at the competition, you can see that over 80% of our market's still on the table, up for grabs. They are in the same space as us, yet doing something different. Now, these are two organizations that have taken a social approach to roommate matching, but really haven't done a good job at it, and we can do better. So product differentiation and a consultative sales approach really set us apart. But how are we going to go out and actually grow a client list? We're going to exhibit and demo at conferences put on by organizations that you see appearing now. We'll also present the research we're doing at these same conferences to gain credibility, and we're currently partnering strategically with the other organizations that you just saw appear on the screen. And lastly, we're branding our sales force as a business development partner network. This has already been rolled out. And again, our approach is to sit down with these clients, really understand what their needs are, and put together a solutions package based on their needs. But how do we make money? So we operate off of a subscription model based on a tiered pricing structure. Pricing is dependent on the number of solutions your school needs and the number of users at that school. So we're also implementing a freemium model for the compatibility-based roommate matching feature, and we want to get in there between September and January to really talk to these decision makers and get them to pull the trigger on our offering. So within 3 years, we're projecting just under $10 million in revenue, with about $5.5 million being retained as earnings. And you've got a very committed team behind this that's passionate about the value we're bringing to this market. We all work in student affairs, so we've got that domain knowledge. We also have very relevant experience outside of that domain. Furthermore, there's a very well-rounded and dynamic advisory board behind us that's eager and excited to see succeed. So looking at the traction, we've saved guests and residents to date over 35 days of waiting time. We've saved this school over $5,000. We've got $10,000 in accounts receivable. 85% of our power users say their work life would suffer without us. And we've got 5 conversations going on with 5 other schools. So we got a long ways to go. We got a lot to learn. We're looking for advisors, mentors, closing some seed running. Anybody in the audience that's ever benefited from what we do, you say, I love Resolutions.
I love the cheering section. Clearly, the entire audience is behind you.
That's some user validation, if I might say.
In the past, the audience counted for part of the judging panel, but sorry, not this year. So please, some questions for the team.
The matching is the obvious part, but you talked a bit about the risk assessment, which I think is really the interesting side of this from the colleges. Could you talk more about what it is that you're actually doing and how that differentiates you from the other competition that's out there?
Regarding threat assessment?
Yes.
Sure. So Actually, there's a senator out of Arizona, and feel free to chime in, guys, but he's proposed legislation that would mandate a threat assessment solution be implemented not only in the community colleges and universities, but in every elementary and middle school. So to your point, the competition surrounding that feature, there's two people out there doing it, Maxient and Campus Check, neither of which have really gained traction and neither of which are doing it in a way that these legislatures and these schools are looking for. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So why is that not answering the need? What's the difference between what you're doing and what they're doing?
Sure. So what they're doing is really pretty much, I don't want to say whimsical, but our threat assessment tools based on NBITA framework. NBITA is a National Behavioral Intervention Team Association. They've actually developed a framework, a hierarchy, if you will, that tracks different threat levels, and we're partnering with them to come up with this solution. So that gives us a little bit more credibility. That's something that these folks aren't doing, and they've kind of come up with it on their own and are saying this is a way to do it, whereas we want to go to that credible source that's nationally recognized, partner with them, and have them help us do it.
So can you talk, this is, I guess, a recurring question I've been having, but just in unit economics, so you talk about a $62 billion market, but then, I'm trying to understand how that breaks up, like, with what you're specifically doing, because $62 billion covers a lot of things in IT, Absolutely. Right? So just, if you think about what you're providing, what do you think, first of all, you talk about like $5,000 in cost savings, so what do you think a school is willing to pay, or have they already engaged in any sort of, relationship with you? What is the pricing per school?
Yeah. Sure, I'll take this one too. So we have we've got about $10,000 in accounts receivable we implemented here back in Pace University, and what the customer is willing to pay, pretty much based on the solutions we've implemented here, it's anywhere between $10 and $15 per student. And to your first point, out of that $62 billion market, we actually looked, and based on 2009 numbers, about 30, I would say, 20 to 30% of that IT spend is for enterprise software, and we're going to go ahead and throw ourselves in right there.
But you're focusing only, I'm sorry, you're only focusing though on the roommate matching area, or are you focusing on much broader areas than that?
I would say much broader areas today, and it's a little early to say we're pivoting, but we set out with a initial set of assumptions. We went out, validated several of them. The market likes what we're doing, but there are much bigger opportunities outside of college housing departments and more related with student affairs when it comes to a threat assessment tool and things like that. And so we're really listening to the market and trying to leverage our core competencies to go ahead and get out there and capitalize on those opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Salif, and this is my little brother and boss, Muhammad Ali. I'm a PhD candidate studying international politics at Purdue, and he's an entrepreneurship major and corporate social responsibility at Temple. Malo and Bambara, which is a lingua franca in West Africa, means rice, so we're essentially rice traders. 3.4 billion people eat rice almost on a daily basis. It's intimately linked to food security, but also very linked to social peace and political stability. In Mali, 70% of our people are farmers. And at the moment, we have a huge problem when it comes to malnutrition. 81% of our children under 5 are anemic. And we have a solution in order to address this problem. Our business model is driven 100% by sales. We're processing rice purchased from farmers at a 10% premium. We process that rice, we get a byproduct that's rice flour, blend that with vitamins and minerals to create this. What I have in my hand is a pasta product. It smells like rice, it tastes like rice, it looks like rice. The major problem in the world is that white rice is not nutritious. By fortifying with ultra rice, we can get the benefits of eating brown rice, for example.
So what's our impact? We want to create the first brand of fortified rice in West Africa. In our venture, we increase the wealth and the health of our fellow citizens while securing a good profit for our shareholders. According to the Copenhagen Consensus, where a handful of the most prominent economists got together, including Nobel Prize winners, the single best investment in fighting international development programs on a large scope is food fortification. And this is exactly what we're doing. Now, we're creating a system where there's a win-win-win situation for the farmer, our consumer, and our shareholder. In order to get our venture off the ground, we need about $2.5 million in initial capital investment. It's a capital-intensive industry. We have already identified the sources of funding possible. We'll break even on an operational standpoint in year 1. On an investment standpoint, in year 4, we're guaranteeing a return of equity of about 46% for our shareholders. For the last 15 months, we've been traveling the world, Mexico, France, Senegal, Mali, Silicon Valley, Canada, Washington, today in New York, to rally support, financial and advisory support. Myself, I've been working for the last 3 years with farmers, have experience in project management and microfinance, and we truly believe that our life experience, as well as our genuine interest to get this venture off the ground is possible. So in that photo, the first venture we launched 1 year ago has received recognition from the president of Mali that you can see there, one of our brothers. Now we want to scale, we want to replicate, and achieve impact in our local community. Now, if you give us the opportunity to prove ourselves, we'll guarantee you that we'll make the phrase "a hungry farmer" an oxymoron, and that's what it should be. Thank you very much for your attention.
Is this an idea that you've discussed with the World Food Program at all?
Yes. So we talked with. That's supposed to be not official. So we have informal talks with the regional director of the World Food Program, as well as the national director, and they have this Purchase for Progress initiative, which is $77 million from the Gates Foundation and the Buffett Foundation to buy high-quality, nutritious rice locally. So our question was, if we produce fortified rice and you have the choice between unfortified rice at the similar price, which one would you buy? They said, we'll systematically buy your fortified rice. So through fixed contract agreements, we could guarantee the loans we need to buy inventory during the harvest season.
And what is the taste of this fortified product, and have you tested it out in the market?
So basically, we blend it with traditional rice. So this, 1 grain of this can fortify 200 grains of traditional rice. So it the local community can maintain the culinary habits, they can maintain the eating habits, and there's over 27 studies that have shown that it's been widely accepted.
And this summer we conducted 2 focus groups in Mali, let the women cook the rice themselves, wash it as much as they wanted, and 80% of the respondents said they did not notice any change in smell or taste. And the ones that noticed, our next question was, if this will guarantee that you won't be anemic, it will decrease your risk of dying during labor when you try to give birth, it'll ensure that your kid will have cognitive development and live a productive life, would you buy it, knowing that we're selling it at the 8.15 discount compared to standard grade rice? The answer is systematically yes.
And you said you're raising $50,000 for a proof of concept study, and what would that entail?
So what we're doing in September, October, we want to like blend the rice locally in Mali, test all our assumptions, our sales assumptions, and get the best practices for how do we blend the rice and how do we provide it to market. Initially, we want to recoup our money. We're not going to donate the rice. We're not doing a focus group. We're going to do a pilot study where we're selling rice. So we want people to buy it, and once we know people are paying money for it and coming back again, why are they coming back? Should we change the packaging? Should we change the labeling? Should we get more institutional endorsements? We just want to have a full-fledged, our own primary data that nobody else has in the world today.
You've mentioned that fortified rice is a big area of focus, and assuming a lot of people really want to address this market. What gives you the biggest advantage over any of the other people in this space?
Okay, so the complexity of farming. A lot of industries may be interested in fortifying rice. The complicated aspect is, how do you get that raw material? How do you deal with local communities? How do you understand farmers, climate issues? It's just cultural issues. So a lot of people refrain from getting into agro-industry in developing countries because you just don't speak the language. And it's hot, they're tired, so you don't want to deal with that. And then once you process them in the factory or the facility, that's really easy. The quality control-wise, easy to do it. How do you push it back to the market again? How do you market and communicate in an effective manner that's culturally adapted? And that's where we kick in. We grew up in 3 of the 10 poorest countries in Africa. We're from Mali. We have that personal passion, that personal interest, and we're working on this for such a long time. So that the grassroots knowledge, the interest aligned with our experience in corporate America and international organizations like the United Nations Food and Agriculture Program, plus our education, it gives us this cross-cultural venture where we have assets from both sides of the Atlantic.
And one quick follow-up, is that scalable, that local knowledge?
Yes. So when it comes to West Africa, there's 4 neighboring countries that speak the same language that we do. We have a free trade agreement, same currency, no tariffs, no taxes to do businesses across border. They have the same health and poverty issues. So once we create this brand, we have a $1.2 billion market just in West Africa.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for allowing us to tell you about our company, Little Big Loan. My name is Eric Rosenblatt, and this is my co-founder, Vishnu Murthy. Little Big Loan is an online peer-to-peer lending platform that connects socially conscious investors to students in need of college financing. We derive our revenue from a loan origination fee. Our vision is to end the cycle of poverty here in the United States. Education is the key to escaping from this cycle, yet many Americans cannot afford higher education. As both public and private universities get more and more expensive, the gap between available financing and the full cost of an education is widening. Little Big Loan will help solve this problem. We enable students to reach a network of potential lenders to raise the financing they need through peer-to-peer loans. We do this by having students fill out detailed loan applications, which are posted to our website and available for viewing by potential lenders. Any individual will be able to access our database of student borrowers and filter them based on characteristics such as what high school they went to, what sports they played, what career interests they have, and others.
Our website will operate similarly to an eBay or Match.com, an online marketplace for student loans to be built off of personal connections. Our founding principle is easy to use. We have simple loan terms, 5-year loans initially set at a 15% interest rate. As of last year, the peer-to-peer lending market was a $6 billion market, with the largest competitors being Prosper and Lending Club. Our competitive advantage lies in our focus on education and the personal connection that we build between student borrower and lender. So how will we find these potential lenders? We have devised a tiered marketing strategy that will initially target charitable investors who see a loan to a student as more of a donation than an investment. As we build a repayment rate history and prove that our business model works, we will then expand to more returns-focused investors. Little Big Loan is the perfect blend for both of our professional and personal interests. Before business school, I worked in finance and at an online retail startup doing business development. While working, I was also an active volunteer at SIA, a youth development center in Queens, where I tutored several high school students who could not afford to go to college. Eric also worked in finance, where he covered the technology sector at a hedge fund and developed credit and risk management skills by underwriting private loans. For our first round of fundraising, we are seeking $225,000, which we will use to build our website and pay for legal and marketing expenses. With this capital and under our management, our company vision is possible. We project that in 5 years, we can help more than 35,000 students go to college by simply matching them with lenders through our website. Everyone wins with Little Big Loan. We are helping students go to college, offering lenders a social investment, and creating value for our investors. Thank you for your time.
Can you discuss the legal aspects of this and the regulatory aspects, banking and otherwise?
There's, so currently the peer-to-peer lending market is undergoing regulatory regulations right now. On the lender side, we would potentially be regulated by the SEC. On the borrower side, we would be potentially regulated by the FDIC. The industry itself is so brand new that there really hasn't been a template set forward for how all these companies are going forward. There's also potential regulation by the FTC on the state side as well. So we are right now, that's why for our potential first round of fundraising, we're assessing $100,000 of that capital round to use for legal expenses and regulatory constraint expenses.
Have you thought at all about the low rates of college completion from very vulnerable students? And in the public community colleges, only about 21 or 22% of the students who start a 2-year program complete within 6 years. So what's the exposure that you would have for students who don't have the education skills? It's more than just the loan money to attend.
Sure. We've considered that. Well, we initially want to provide this as a supplementary loan to students who necessarily can't, who students that are working full time. So for students that are going to community colleges and to even 4 universities, we want our website to really build a social connection and to provide a social incentive along with a financial incentive to pay the lenders back. So even though that there are instances where there are students who necessarily don't finish college, that's why we do have a high interest rate to attract obviously lenders, but aren't necessarily burdensome to the students.
Who do you see as the competition for those charitable dollars early on?
So for the competition for the charitable dollars, we're initially targeting charitable investors who donate money to the Red Cross or to other just faceless charities where they don't have any idea of where the money goes. What we want to do is empower the lenders and have them actually have discretion on where exactly the money goes to. So we see our competition just being charities and other organizations where you give money to, but you have no power or control of where that money goes to.
And so initially, would it be a tax-deductible donation?
No, it would be. It would not be.
So it's never going to be tax-deductible?
No.
Okay. So the term, you're going to structure it as a loan?
Yes.
From the beginning? Okay. And how did you come up with those terms?
So we wanted to provide, so our terms are 5-year loans where we have 1 year of deferred interest to provide the student the summer to work for so he can build up cash to pay for following interest rate payments. So we wanted to initially lend to students who are entering into college in the fall, graduating high school seniors, and then provide, it's a 5-year loan, so it provides 1 year of working afterwards to provide, again, to build up the money to pay for the principal afterwards. So we came up with the loan terms on just talking to students, doing market surveys, and seeing what loan terms would be amenable to them.
And if these are supplemental, I mean, what would the seniority be? I mean, would they be junior to the other debt outstanding?
Well, of course, I mean,
other
you'd have to
loans?
pay, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're junior to anything, they're on the same level. Because again, we're partnering with credit rating agencies going forward, so any loan that the student doesn't repay, it would affect their credit score going forward.
You said you're going to raise a few $100,000. You said a lot of that's going to be spent on legal regulatory issues.
Right.
You know, to actually get a marketplace, I'd figure you need to have an initial amount of seed capital to get liquidity in the marketplace too. No, I mean, do you feel like the loans? Are the loans going to be? Are you going to have any capital base yourself before you start approaching?
No, we're not taking any risk in terms of. We're just essentially acting as a broker between.
You're
lenders
pure
and
broker. You're not
borrowers.
actually storing any.
We're not
payments.
sourcing any of the loans or taking any of the student
okay.
lending risk.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jared Domingos, and I'm here to tell you about the Lean Canteen, a brand new gourmet food cart dedicated to taste, nutrition, and convenience. TLC will be a 10-foot-long, fully enclosed mobile food service trailer that will combine a unique product with an innovative service in order to give its customers a low-cost, delicious, and satisfying 500-calorie meal. Now, this service is needed because now, more than ever, people are eating out, almost 4 times a week. But with consumers drastically underestimating calorie content, combined with the DOH saying that 1 out of 3 meals purchased at New York City franchises contains more than 1,000 calories, this has helped feed an obesity epidemic where 60% of us have become overweight. But it's not our fault. Multiple New York City chains and franchises have recognized this trend of eating healthy out and now offer what appear to be fresh and healthy fast casual food. But how do you know exactly what you're eating, and why is it so confusing and expensive? Therefore, TLC will be the first retailer and establishment ever to prepare, cook, and serve an assortment of low-calorie frozen entrees. TLC will take these award-winning frozen entrees and combine them with nutritious frozen vegetables, sides, and drinks in order to form a complete and satisfying 500-calorie meal for under $7. TLC will have numerous competitive and market advantages, like having the largest variety of healthy meals, taking advantage of the low overhead and fixed cost of a mobile food unit, as well as an emphasis on increased convenience, technology, and sanitation. TLC will steam cook or grill all of its food and will use products that are already featured on numerous social media sites and have a well-known brand name recognition for taste, quality, and convenience. Now, I know how crucial social media is for a successful mobile food marketing and branding strategy because for the last year, I've worked for the Zygot-rated best food truck in New York City. I have acquired substantial knowledge and experience in the mobile food industry that involves opening, operating, and closing a food unit of exact size. So I know exactly what is required to do it right. And the first is this right here. Capital to start building the cart, obtain a legitimate permit, and to purchase major equipment. With a maximum investment of $70,000, TLC will have more than enough to guarantee its first year of operation while also implementing an aggressive and profitable growth strategy. TLC will be able to do this because by the end of our first year, the Lean Canteen will break even with revenues greater than $5,000 a month. During our second year, we will open a second canteen location, giving us a sales volume of over 18,000 entrees per year. By our third year, TLC will have a team of ambitious and motivated employees, a strong relationship with distributors and vendors, and will repay the full initial investment plus its return. By helping to actually fight the obesity epidemic while also earning profits, this will ensure TLC's long-term success as we hope to have concession and franchise opportunities in other major cities such as Washington, D.C.
Good job. And some questions from the judging panel.
Yes, a quick question in terms of the consumer insights driving this. Why not just bring lean cuisine into the office microwave versus going downstairs out in the cold to get to the truck?
As you can. And what we are featuring is the convenience of it, the convenience of adding not only the frozen entree, but the vegetables, the side, and the drink all in one place that you can come and get. And you could bring it to work, but that actually comes inconvenient and dull. To buy it at the grocery store, bring it home, then bring it from home to work, be stuck in your office all day, not get out of the office, and you also have to bring your side.
Can you talk a little bit about the unit economics and margins of this business, right? So we know, I guess, all what lean cuisine, things like that cost. So are you getting it at a special pricing, and what are you charging? What are the margins?
Absolutely. We will, right now we have a very high estimate of $3 an entree for us. And with that, we still have our cost of goods only being 46%. And then because of the low overhead with a mobile food vendor, our gross margins are about 40 to 35%, which will allow us to continue operations during our first winter, which will be the hardest to survive. But as obviously we grow bigger and grow stronger relationships with ConAgra and Nestle Professional, we hope to get it down to almost $2 or $1.50 per entree. And then we can lower our prices from there.
And are you working with lean cuisine, and where's the menu development coming from?
It would not be an exclusive deal. We would like to work with Nestle Professional, ConAgra, which is Healthy Choice, as well as Green Mountain Coffee, which is the Keurig. So it will be multiple different vendors and brokers.
What are your staffing costs?
Staffing costs, in the first year, I'll be the principal owner and operator. And then after the second year, it's about an increase, our daily cost, $100 per employee.
So are you putting yourself in for a salary?
Not during the first year, no.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Darren Shearer, and I'm the proud founder and CEO of a new consumer-driven fitness company called FitHopper. Despite the healthcare crisis in our nation, only 3 out of 10 adults get the recommended amount of exercise. What the $18 billion health club industry needs is a consumer-driven model that provides freedom from contracts for customers, pay only for what you use, which is a style of purchasing that's increased 26% in the health club industry since last year. Ratings and reviews and price comparisons, personalization and niche-oriented fitness, and social connectedness. Because people come to work out because their friend and their family member or their coworker invites them, not because of pushy salespeople at the gym. This 5-fold model is exactly what FitHopper provides. Fitness providers set a la carte pricing deals. For example, 5 sessions for the price of 3. I'm in talks with people ranging from independent personal trainers to the CEO of Club Med Gym, which is one of the largest chains in Europe. Then customers receive subsidy via their employer or their insurer to offset the cost of their fitness activities. FitHopper suggests and selects weekly workout schedule. Customers find out which of their Facebook friends who are incorporating the social media to connect people. I'm a former captain in the United States Air Force with over 6 years of leadership and management experience. I have 4 years of corporate wellness program experience as well. I'm an MBA candidate at PACE. And our Director of Information Technology is Mr. Ajay Gupta, who has 15 years of IT experience at the companies that you can see listed here to the side. Our competition are Global Fit and Healthways. These companies are not consumer-driven. Their service is only available through the employers and health insurers. They have minimal use of the web and social media for connecting with individuals, and they work almost exclusively with big box health clubs, which is a model in decline. And they're being supplanted by the niche-oriented fitness service providers like cardio kickboxing instructors, cardio tennis instructors, personal trainers, rock climbing gyms, things that are outside of the norm of traditional health clubs. Our marketing strategy is to go after the medical doctor referrals, so it's not just your spouse that's telling you need to go work out, now it's your doctor, on-site corporate wellness presentations, and the best of all, the customers who get the desired results that they're looking for fitness-wise, and they go and tell their friends. First year, 1.1 million, projected sales, 3 million by the second year, and I'm offering 40% equity with a $130,000 seed investment. Thank you.
Could you talk a little bit more about the economic model? What's the basis for the projection on sales?
There's a 15% commission that FitHopper collects off of each sale through FitHopper. So an individual receives a corporate wellness subsidy through their employer, through their insurance company, and they then bring that transfers over to FitHopper. They can purchase services at any service provider in the world. Again, we're targeting the niche-oriented service providers. And then FitHopper, with every sale, we collect 15% on every all of the revenues that are generated for those companies.
Have you talked to the insurance companies on how much they would actually subsidize the programs?
For example, Random House publishers, and a lot of these corporations are self-insured, they pay for as much as $500 annually toward their employees' wellness. So that comes out to about $40 a month. So it's not going to cover, for example, a membership at Equinox or Chelsea Piers, but it's at least going to subsidize and motivate them to go and exercise. And because we bring that to FitHopper, that gives them an incentive to use our services, and plus we provide the value of having countless niche-oriented service providers that they can choose from.
So I just had a follow-up question to what Lori was asking about. So if you look at the revenue model you're talking about a 15% commission, and you look at who you're addressing in terms of your market, you said it's not the big, large fitness clubs, correct?
Right, but we are going to be going after them as well.
So have you done some rough market sizing to understand, what you think you might be able to collect on your typical fitness club, and if you were to get every one of them, how big that would be?
Right. The average person is spending, that actually has a membership, they're spending around $100 a month, and so that's pretty much the model that it's based on. I have all of my financials right here. I apologize, I don't have that answer with me, but I can definitely get it back to you.
Okay, Stan?
You made a point about that you would tailor the fitness program to the individual preferences of the individual.
Correct.
What kind of professional capability would you have to be able to do that?
There's a company called Technogym, and they have a software program called Club 2.0, which is going to interface with FitHopper. And what it does is it assesses an individual's desire and their motivations, their aspirations for exercise. Because traditionally, everybody's kind of treated like a number, and there hasn't been a whole lot of personalization in the fitness industry. And so there hasn't really been a tailored program. And now people are they're using personal trainers, but it just costs too much money for the average person to go out and use a personal trainer. And so we assess what their preferences are, and then because all of these niche-oriented service providers are a part of our network, we can then direct them to the providers that are of most interest to them.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Each of the judges will go down the row, will introduce themselves and their firm briefly, and then just give a few thoughts. And again, it's meant to be as much value for the audience as it is for the contestants. So please, why don't we start with Kevin?
So Innosight is a strategy consulting firm. We were founded about 10 years ago by a Harvard professor named Clayton Christensen, who wrote a couple of books on innovation that became quite popular. The Innovator's Dilemma, The Innovator's Solution, kind of topping that list. And what we've spent the last 10 years really doing is helping to demystify what innovation means, especially within large enterprises. So how do companies that have been successful in a certain generation of their industry, how do they reinvent themselves, reinvent their industry to generate sustainable growth and return, similar to what IBM has actually done in the last 100 years, so my compliments. I was an ex-IBMer so I have to disclose that. So a couple things that we look for, whether it's a startup outside of a big company or something that people are trying to incubate inside a large enterprise. Real-world experience, in my mind, trumps any kind of conference room planning. So spreadsheets, pie charts, things of that nature. If you can actually get out, and as Sal Khan alluded to earlier on, and we heard a few of the presenters talk about, if you can get out and get some real-world validation of your idea, if people are actually willing to pay you for it. One thing we've encouraged some of our clients to do is to give away the product and then try and take it back after 6 months. If people are willing to say, no, wait, I need this here now in this organization, how much can I pay you to keep this prototype you gave me? It's a pretty good validation that you've invented something that people really want. So we look for those types of things. Scott Cook, the head of Intuit, is kind of a friend of our firm. We've never actually consulted for him. He does a lot of this stuff instinctively, but he's got a great line about forecasting early on. And what he said is the spreadsheet is wrong, we just don't know in what direction. We can either completely underscope the opportunity that we see, or we can completely overscope it. And he said for every one of our failures, we've had spreadsheets that looked awesome. So the reality is no one knowingly invests in a bad business model. What you have to do is allow yourself the freedom to respond to market input. So go forward with a plan, believe what you have evidence to believe, invest at the pace of that confidence, but then be prepared to pivot when necessary. I'll close with the last comment. The other side of the Scott Cook story is the Mike Tyson story, which is everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So it's how you respond to that moment that we encourage our organizations to respond to. So those are kind of my thoughts for the teams going forward to kick this off.
Well, I also want to congratulate the teams that present today. I've spoken, participated in the last few years, and I continue to always get excited by the new ideas that come in from some of these student entrepreneurs. Just broadly speaking, Bruce and I have talked a bit about this in some prior sessions about some of the things to focus on in a pitch. And in the 3 minutes, you have a very, very limited amount of time. So I have to commend all of you for getting as much as you did in those 3 minutes. But I think generally, especially if you're looking on the, say, the for-profit new business side, first of all, understanding what the overall business proposition is. So one gentleman, I think, said, I'm the eBay for lending, or whatever it is, helping to quickly understand what the actual overall business proposition, that's very helpful. Understanding the market size, and not just, obviously, this is a however many billion-dollar healthcare market, but what's the actual slice you could get with your rev model, which is, of course, speculative if you're not yet actually monetizing on it. Management, competition. I think a lot of presentations had elements of it, and some did better in certain areas than others, but I think that was one thing that I think generally is good to get, even in a 3-minute pitch. I guess the other thing is just about understanding what's really an amazing pain point. That's something that Sal alluded to in his speech, but and it's sometimes hard to know until you actually have enough customer traction, but something you have to really compel an investor to spend more time talking to you, whether it's at a cocktail party or whether it's in a meeting, is, okay, is this a nice to have, or is this something someone really just must have? Part of that's with the enthusiasm and passion the entrepreneur has, but part of it's also with the model itself. Just in 1 minute, just briefly, just the individual businesses in no specific order. For FitHopper, we'll talk specifically about stuff in our conclusion at the end, but I think we all agree that the market's a big market. It's unclear, I think, from the presentation exactly how this would work and whether this is actually necessarily the right segment of the market to pursue. And I think it would be helpful to get some stuff on market sizing. Residential solutions, I think that the overall idea of matching roommates is an interesting one, and I've invested specifically in businesses that do matching lead generation in other categories, both consumer and B2B, but it's hard to figure out what the real meat and potatoes of the business will be going forward. You have one pilot, but it's just understanding how this will scale and how you're going to get a larger slice of the actual IT spending. I felt, it's of course in its early stages, but that would be helpful. Lean Canteen, I thought was a really good delivery and really nailed the unit economics. I think just personally, I'm trying to understand, some of the actual, stress test the actual value prop of getting what Kevin alluded to earlier about whether you would go outside to get, something that's lean cuisine-like versus something that's maybe really unique and differentiated. But I thought it was a very good presentation. And also the big thing there, understanding this will be the last thing I comment on, I'll let the others talk about social ventures, is from an investor perspective, what type of investor are you looking for? Is this really going to be something which you would approach even an angel investor, or is it really more a loan from friends and family? So, yeah, those are my comments.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Jalak Jobanputra. I'm a director of mobile investments at the Omidyar network, and I apologize for my voice. I was at Summit at Sea this past weekend, and the Roots were the house band. And congratulations to all of you. I thought the pitches were great, considering you had 3 minutes to get in a lot of information. So kudos to all of you. A few points on Omidyar Network, where a philanthropic capitalist fund founded by eBay co-founder Pierre Omidyar to invest in market-based solutions to have social impact. And we invest globally. We have different areas of focus. One is financial inclusion. Another is property rights, which is very relevant in places like Africa and India. Mobile, which is the initiative that I joined 4 months ago to head up. And government transparency is our other major focus, and we are actively involved in funding some efforts in the Middle East around that right now. Just generally speaking, I thought the presentations covered a good range of information in 3 minutes. I always like to see more on competition. Usually, it's something that you have to understand that the investors that you're pitching to, some of them may know the market really well, but others may not, and it's important to understand what differentiates your company and your product offering over what else is out there in the market. And there is always competition to talk about. If there isn't, then it's not an interesting enough market. But just going on to specifics, for FitHopper, I actually thought there was an interesting model in there in terms of lead generation for connecting individual, like personal trainers or small, fitness outfits to consumers who may not want to pay gym fees or may, like in my case, I travel a lot, and I'm not making use of my gym membership, so I can see myself using it. I don't know how open the gyms would be to a model and how the economics would work as presented, but that's just some specific feedback there. Lean Canteen, and resolutions, I'd say I'd echo a lot of what Somak said, so I won't repeat those. In terms of the social venture, Little Big Loan, I think the peer-to-peer lending market is one that's since Kiva was founded, and we have given Kiva money to expand out of Omidyar. There have been lots of new models and kind of new markets being addressed around this, but David asked this question about the regulatory environment. I think that's something that even before going out and asking for investment, looking at what the constraints are and what's been the gating factors and experiences with places like Kiva is very important, and also be aware that some of these other platforms may look at this market also. And 17-year-olds are a high-risk profile. So in terms of credit assessment risk, et cetera, I think that area also needs to be focused on. Malo traders, like the fact that you guys are, addressing a need in a country that you know well. Distribution is very challenging in Africa, as I am experiencing looking at different models in Africa. So getting a handle on that, and maybe it's through the proof of concept, but that would be important to an investor. Thanks.
I thought everybody did a very good job. You're to be credited. A lot of pressure to deliver that in a 3-minute period. I guess in terms of feedback, I would say don't give up. This is a competition, and obviously the winners will get a relatively modest amount of resource. But if you think your idea makes a whole lot of sense, just don't give up on it. I think all of the ideas needed some refinement. Maybe it was a consequence of only having 3 minutes and a relatively short amount of ink to be able to outline your idea, but I would, refine them even more. In terms of the specifics, I think Malo Traders had a very interesting concept there. Since the large amount of money that would be available for that is among the international development community and international NGOs, especially those that do a lot of work with USAID and a variety of other funders, you might have, if you haven't already done so, spend a little bit more time on where that money is and how to be able to attract it to this idea. I thought the Lean Canteen idea made a lot of sense, although we didn't have a lot of time to be able to hear the details. So again, just congratulations and thank you to the people who spent their time on their ideas.
My name is David S. Rose. I'm the chairman of New York Angels, the largest angel investing group in New York. And I'm also, as an entrepreneur, the CEO of a company called AngelSoft, which provides the back-end infrastructure for virtually every angel group in the world. I thought, again, like everybody else, that the presentations were all a good job from scratch. There are two different parts to judging for us as judges and for you as presenters in a competition like this. One of them is the actual content of the business. That's the business model and what you're doing, and does it make sense? Can it make money? Do you have the experience, and so on and so forth. The other one is the presentation, how you actually get up here and use your 3 minutes plus 2 minutes of Q&A. That part is totally learnable. I mean, that's a pure skill set. There are books on it. A great book is called Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. There are online resources, a video that I did. It's actually for TED. You can go to the TED website and look for David S. Rose. And you can read all kinds of blog posts about it. A few important points. Number one, you have to be very clear, structure your presentation to get all the points across in that 3 minutes that investors need to hear. A lot of you missed out various important things, whether business model or competition or whatever else. Number two, you have 3 minutes, don't rush. Better to do distill it down to the essence and give us a rational, controlled 3 minutes than going through at breakneck speed. Three, don't read your speech. That tells us you don't know enough about your business or have enough confidence to do it extempore. Four, if you're going to use slides, which are fine, most people use PowerPoints, control your PowerPoints and make sure that you say something and then you put up the slide to reinforce what you're doing. I'll just quickly go through the for-profit businesses. Bruce referred before to my well-known aversion to social businesses. I don't think there are any such thing. I'm in line with Sal Khan, which is why I was smiling, because I agree I don't believe in double bottom lines. You are one or the other, you're not both. That being said, I thought all three of the for-profit businesses each had an interesting example of this new world and how to leverage technology. In the case of FitHopper, you were looking at the spread of the internet to be able to provide access, market-making, marketing to reach a large base. In the case of Lean Canteen, you were taking various pieces, existing pieces out there, whether it's the frozen foods and the existing truck or the market trends here, and put it all together very inexpensively into a rational functioning business. And in the case of Resolutions, that's a very scalable business based on using an online platform across a very large market that if you get it working in one place, you can scale it if it all works and make it very large. So congratulations to all of you.
So I'm Laurie Smith, and I'm the lawyer in the group, and I get to talk last after everybody else took all my comments. I work with a lot of startups, early stage companies, and investors throughout the country, and so I've sat through a lot of these, and congratulations to all of you. I don't think I could do anything in 3 minutes. I would just be standing up there in sheer terror, not able to really explain what was going on. Just to reiterate what a lot of people here said, we looked at this from two sides, and this is a pitch contest, so presentation was really more important. And I really like the business plan competitions better, where you actually get a little bit more time and a little bit more opportunity to really understand the business, because that's the challenge for us here today. In 3 minutes, you all had to race through about 20 different topics, and I think that in that we lost, in some cases, the real understanding of what the business was. So I think David said this a bit, even though it's 3 minutes, and you want to hit everything, really, really hit the high points. And the high points, no matter what you're doing, are what's the problem? What's the problem? How am I going to solve it, and why am I solving it better than everyone else? Because that's really what we need to understand, and that's what I was trying to get at. And I think the other challenge is that when we're up here asking questions, really listen to those questions and use those few seconds you have to respond wisely, because I know it's hard to think on your feet like that, but the reality is that we're just trying to lead you where we want you to go. We're really trying to understand so that we can judge you fairly and give you the right feedback. And sometimes you go off on a tangent and don't really answer the question asked. I'm not going to go into the individual businesses. The only thing I want to point out, and I think this was a bit of a challenge also in the companies today, was that think about the market you're selling into. Because in all of these, it was the market that really was the issue a bit, for me at least. For Resolutions, it was really the challenges of selling a product like that into the university setting. It's a really, really tough market to sell to, not a place where there's a lot of cash available, and new IT is really something that's a challenge for them, even though they're looking at it extensively. In the case of FitHopper, it was the challenge of who is going to buy this product, who's going to pay the 15% or whatever it is in this fragmented market of small businesses that are all fighting for the same customers. And if you're going to go to the other side and try to get the healthcare providers and the insurance carriers to pay for it, that's an even tougher market than the universities. And in the case of the Lean Canteen, for me, the issue was really the market is fairly small, and I don't really know how scalable it was. It's not that it's a truck. The food truck market is huge, but the model is basically selling a frozen food product, and so think about where that goes. That's really all I have to say, other than congratulations, and I wish all of you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you, and a round.
So thank you very much, and thank you to the judges for, I think, a job well done. Let us give them a round of applause. I'm just going to talk to you for just a few minutes before I announce the winners, but the thing I'm struck by as somebody who's held positions in both the public and the private sector is, well, let me put it in context. I spent about 20 years as counsel to Salomon Brothers and Citigroup cleaning up after other people's messes. So I got to see entrepreneurship in high dudgeon, meaning when it broke, when something didn't work, when someone was about to go out of business. The great message here is entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. As most of you know, as David Rose knows perhaps better than anyone, most new businesses fail, which is not to say they shouldn't be started, which is not to say they shouldn't be tried, and which is not to say that Schumpeter was wrong when he talked about the destructive impact of capitalism. Those things happen, and most of the time they're good when they happen because they clear the underbrush and you get to start again. The observation I'd like to leave you with is not simply that pitches are electric, and you heard that, and as was said, part of it is presentation and part of it is the meta idea that's behind it. And in institutions like this, you've got to, separate the wheat from the chaff, both as to the presenter and as to the substance. Now, we all know that, but what's more important that's also behind it is the significance of the education in becoming an entrepreneur. In this day and age, more and more, it is becoming professionalized. And I think that is for the good. It is true that most businesses fail. It is also true that they fail for easily curable reasons. And you got a sense of that tonight. Pitches have to be quick, and pitches have to be clean. There's clarity and brevity, as one of the speakers said, and clarity and brevity applies to all of us. Educational entrepreneurship is all about the educated entrepreneur. Like Cy Sims, they're the most successful business person. People need to be taught the difference between social utility and mere profit maximization. People need to debate whether or not those two can be combined. Financial planning matters. Organizational management matters. Mission statements matter. Websites matter. Legal matters. And all those things are teachable. What is not teachable is the ideation, coming up with a great idea. And that you just need to keep fishing and hope that you've got the judgment to see the difference. All that brings me to one point, and then I'll read the winners. And that is, I think Bruce Bachenheimer here has done just a tremendous job, keeping this alive for 7 years, doing it year in, year out. And as a trustee of Pace University, I can't tell you how proud I am that this happens here every year. So to Bruce, thank you. And with that, I'm pleased to announce that for new business concepts, the winner is resolutions. And on the social welfare side, mallow traders.